Hello, everyone. I hope you guys are having an amazing day. Hello, Angie. Hello, Mahikali. It's so wonderful to be here. Hello, Marilena. Good morning. Thank you so much for joining me. So let me go ahead and share this and let everybody tune in. Today, we're having a really nice presentation to talk a little bit about in-depth the transmutation process from the physical aspect and how it affects us. Hello, Nikki. Hello, Kevin. Hello, Sun Lazuli, Unika Yoli, Lee Gartman, Fields of Theater. So good to see you. All right, my love. So today we have a lot to talk about. We're going to talk about gray matter in the process of transmutation, gray matter in the brain, how it participates in a very large part in the production of the transmutation elements that help us reach higher states of consciousness. And it's a really amazing and beautiful study on understanding how we cultivate this body, this physical body, as a vessel, as an instrument in order to access higher consciousness and higher information. So we talked a little bit about different parts of the physical body, kind of leading up to these more heavier and in-depth parts that we're going to be starting to go into now, now that we're kind of midway through this process. And in today's topic, let's go right in. I'm going to begin to share some slides with you because there's several things that I want to cover. And then after that, we'll do a meditation. Okay. All right. Thank you for joining, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. Let me just turn on recording just in case. And here we go. All right. So today we're going to discuss what happens in the brain when we are utilizing these transmutation processes, and how does the cultivation of life force help in these processes. Okay, so let me just close all of this so that I can okay. All right, so here we go. We're going to talk about gray matter. So in the process of transmutation, we talked a little bit about how we utilize the brain. The brain is a really awesome tool to help us understand how to process this information. Okay, so can you guys see my screen okay? Let me see. Actually, I might have to move my presentation over here. Hold on a minute. Bear with me, guys. Okay, there we go. I'm going to move my presentation here. Okay, great. So I can see you guys. All right. So, what is it about gray matter? The central nervous system, right? So we talked about the center dantian, okay? And we talked about the lower, the mid, and the higher dantian. What is dantian? Again, for those of you that are just joining us, dantian is the center of collection of energy, collection of life force. That's what it means. It's where energy is being collected, cultivated, preserved. That's the whole point. So how do we cultivate life force in these three parts of the body? We talked about through the emotional body. Training the emotional body, regulating the emotional body will help regulate the nervous system, which in result will help regulate the body and the kind of data that we're accessing from DNA in order to either end certain repetitive programs that are counter-creative into accessing programs that are more co-creative, okay? So how does this all actually work? Let's get down to the physical part of it. What happens when we start actually working with these parts of the body? So the central nervous system, we had an entire talk about the nervous system, is essentially the runway of information that translates and functions as a transducing mechanism to help create this system of pushing life force, that ignition process that brings the life force from the lower base of the spine, from the perineum up the spine into the pineal gland, and allows the ignition process of the pineal gland in order to secrete uh, chemicals that are productive to access into interdimensional worlds and realms. Okay. And the purpose for that is so that we create a kind of collapsing. We talked about how the heart processes as well. The heart collapses these waves that are in a negative state in order for them to go into a neutral, expansive state, which ends up being a high vibration um, wave. So, this is how the entire system is actually working these different mechanisms, lower, mid, and high. So, how do we begin to activate and prepare the physical body, and what is necessary? Well, meditation, when we meditate, we grow gray matter. In fact, for people that have been meditating at least 15 minutes a day, can grow their gray matter 30%, 30% within a couple months. So, meditation is completely essential for this process because several things are happening, and I'm going to explain that now. When we begin to grow gray matter in the brain, this is something that allows the body to self regulate the nervous system and begin to access the environment necessary, both bioelectrical, biochemical, in order for you to begin to vibrate at a higher vibrational rate. So, when we talk about being at a high vibration, it's not just all of a sudden going into a feeling of love. There is an entire mechanism that has to be cultivated in order to sustain that state of being. And it is very much emotional, energetic, biochemical in the body. So, when we do grow the gray matter, so let's talk about the central nervous system is made up of gray matter. Okay, so the gray matter that grows around the brain, and I have several slides here, which, okay, here we go. 40% of the brain is actually gray matter. Okay, 60% of the brain is the white matter. And let's talk about gray matter first. It contains most of the brain's neural cells of the body, and it fully develops once a person reaches their 20s. This is another super, super important thing. Okay, that the development process of the gray matter in the brain doesn't reach its full development until the 20s. And there is an energetic side to this, because as a psychic and as a person that works with energy fields, you begin to understand that there's a process of development when a child is being born of the energetic body that occurs in stages as they go through the development. Every single year that the child is developing up until the age of 7, they develop their energetic system, the chakra system, in full. Okay, complete. The base layers of it, right? But in addition to that, and it doesn't mean that the child doesn't have chakras when they're developing in the womb. The child already has that. Why? Because the chakras are what brings matter into the crystallization of the physical body. It is the chakra system is a projection of the DNA. That's something that we need to understand. The chakra system is a projection of the DNA. It's how massive amounts of information become self-organized in the physical body through ranges of frequency from the lowest to the highest in the body, root to the crown. Okay. So what that means is that as we work with the body in development, it has different stages. When it goes through puberty, another layer of the multidimensional body is coming to its full system, and that is the sexual organs. And this is why we have so many rituals around the world, the coming of age rituals, in which young women are brought out into society, right, in order to be of marrying age. Back in the day, the ages of 15 or 13, depending on what culture it is. There's many very, very famous celebrations that are done when the child is virgin and beginning to be prepared to be an adult, actively in the society, getting married. And there's a very important aspect to that, because in the ancient civilizations, virgins, uh, women and men, but especially female virgins, are cultivated, and some of them were selected to be brought into monastery type groups where they are kept to be virgins, because this goes into a deeper conversation that we won't have today, but females um, have a very special way because they have this ability to create life. Their connection to the spiritual realm is incredibly profound just because they are the divine feminine. And the divine feminine is the gateway, it's the key of creation, but also entering into the higher levels of intuitive access. And that can be done through the female. So this is important because these virgin women were cultivated to become seers. They were cultivated to become very wise sages at a very young age, to be preserving their virginity, and that preservation of the virginity and sexual life force allowed them to transmute that and to allocate that life force into this what is called that Christic state of activated intuitive abilities, powers, abilities, all these things. Okay, so these young virgin women were gathered both in druid groups, and they would be utilized to remote view and to access higher wisdom. And these kinds of techniques were utilized around the world. Now, there is also an inversion of this information, right? When we go into the dark aspects, there is an inversion of that in which, because the life force of virgin boy and girl is so potent, that can also be used for bad, right? So what happens at that age when the child is going through the puberty phase is that the development of the sexual organs and the hormonal system comes online. This is the maturing of the chemical processes in the physical body that allow life force to be available for cultivation and for utilization. And so this would be a good time to teach the child how to utilize this energy for cultivation of higher faculties. So by the time they go through the stages of development, maturity into a young adult, into the age of 20, we have already developed up to the 20th dimensional plane in our physical body. Every year that the human is developing, they have access to be able to access higher dimensional octaves. And this isn't utilized in our culture, unfortunately, but in many cultures, astrology played a huge role in combination with the chakra system and the vibrational frequency that are connected to the different planets. Okay. And every human is cycling through the 12 planets through their physical body, through stages. The year that they are born defines the strengthening of that vibrational frequency and the purpose, the life purpose of the person. Not like, oh, he's going to be a doctor, not that kind of life purpose. I'm talking about the spiritual purpose, the purpose for why and how they will be able to transmute from the lowest to the highest. Every single human is encoded with a specific way of breaking patterns. So you understand your patterns by understanding your weaknesses and your strengths. And some of these ancient, more occult ways of understanding these archetypal structures were a way to know how the human is moving through cycles. Okay, so every year, we are going through cycles of the 12 signs. It activates certain parts of us. We have different astrology systems, but inherently, because we are crystallized in the physical form, we do feel and pick up the celestial body movements. And oftentimes when we are unconscious in states of dream state, we can be affected by these celestial bodies and as they move. Okay, so when there's major shifts, solar flares, full moons, eclipses, the body that is sensitive will pick up on that. However, we do have the ability of transcending these astrological archetypes, and that really is the point. The point is to transcend them, not to try to be like the astrological signs. Those are just tools to help you understand how to rebalance the feminine, masculine, and archetypes in your journey in order to cut karmic ties or cords to these repetitive programs that we took on from our family ancestral lineage through the DNA. Okay, so by the age of 20, this gray matter forms. And so children that meditate at an early age have an incredible ability to produce large amounts of gray matter. And that allows and solidifies the nervous system for the body, crystallizes the nervous system in a way that it has more activated DNA and less trigger points by the time they reach this full development stage. Okay, so it also conducts the processes and sends information to various of the body parts. Now, this is really important because we understand epigenetics, right? How do we produce the information that is fed into the DNA, into the protein that writes the physical body? That's done through the skin, through the layers of the body, which through vibrational patterns are entering through the skin, entering into the nervous system, and then processing chemicals that need to be accessed through brain patterns into our reactionary or action states, right? Okay, so let's talk about white matter just to understand the difference. It's made up of bundles which connect various gray matter areas. It develops throughout the 20s and peaks in the Middle Ages as well. Anyway, it keeps developing. Interprets sensory information from various parts of the body, okay? So the really important part of the white matter is that it balances the sensory information. And this sensory information through the five senses is produced through the white matter and let out into the body through the gray matter and into the nervous system. And I will show you that in just a moment. Let me go to that. Okay, right here, right? So the nervous system then is connecting. So let's take a look. The nervous system that is then connecting from the brain with gray and white matter. The central nervous system connects to the brain and the spinal cord. Notice how this central nervous system goes to the brain all the way down to the sexual organs. This is exactly how the main meridian line in the body is laid out. Remember, we talked about the central cord of the body, this meridian line, which is the most important, that connects the sexual organs all the way up to the tongue and the brain, and then out into the manifestation body, right? The 8th and 7th chakra. So this is the most important. This is the one that we utilize. Now, the peripheral nervous system is the one that goes and connects to all the other body parts. Okay. And it's the one that's connected with your somatic nervous system, which is really important. It connects with the sense organs and voluntary muscles, sensory nervous system, motor nervous system. Then we go to the autonomic nervous system, which is the one that communicates with internal organs and glands. This sympathetic division, or arousing, or parasympathetic division, which is calming. So all of these beautiful systems together are creating networks of information runways. And this is how the body becomes an antenna and translates patterns of vibrational frequency into information in the network of the nervous system, into sensation information, motor information, whether the arousal or reactionary systems of the body, survival mechanisms, and or when the body can be calm. Okay, so together, the sensory and especially the parasympathetic, because we talked about that when we talked about the pineal gland, which is the division that becomes activated when we are calm, is directly providing information. All of these systems connect here to the central nervous system. And the central nervous system is located inside of your spine, which, by the way, is coated with gray matter. Okay, this is super important. So the central nervous system is made up of gray matter and white matter. However, the gray matter plays the most significant part in allowing humans to function normally daily. Gray matter makes up the outermost layer of the brain. The white matter and the gray matter are similar, as they both essential sections of both the brain as well as the spinal cord. The gray matter gets its gray tone from high concentration of cell bodies. Um, sorry, R. Malley Daily is the reference for that. I can put the links for some of these articles for you later if you want to do your own research. Gray matter makes up the outermost part of the brain, and the white matter is similar to that. Okay, so what happens is that this communication between the gray and the white matter then produces the information all the way here at the center core of the body, and brings down the information through the center nervous system, which is located inside of this spinal cord, which is surrounded by gray matter. So when we are meditating for long amounts of time, producing larger amounts of gray matter in the brain, we are also producing gray matter in the spinal cord, which allows the body to come into a state of homeostasis. How? Because it's affecting the kind of information that we're processing and the information that we're outputting. Now, this central spinal cord is the one that first develops in the gestation process, and it is really the prime matter, the prime cord of information. In many, many abduction cases or cases of contact, many contactees from around the world claim that when they are experiencing these experiences, they have a lot of visuals of having spinal taps or information or implants being put into the spinal cord. Why is that? Right. And that's all along the spine, which is at the nape of the neck or all the way down to the base of the spine. The interest in the core material, because when you take cells from the spinal cord, you can literally create an entire human just with cells, right? You can what is it called? Clone a human. So it's really amazing how this system functions. And these cultivation of these energy centers through meditation. That's why meditation is so important. Many things can bring the body into a homeostasis, but meditation is essential because you need to get a handle on the nervous system. And the nervous system is a product of emotions that you are secreting, chemicals that are being created as a result of survival mechanisms. Okay. So now, what happens in this alchemical process where we bring up through alchemical transmutation, which means when we transmute a lower frequency into a higher frequency inside of the body, it literally creates this liquid that is activated in the body. Okay. And it's exactly through the cultivation of this lower dantian that we begin to regulate the way that we are processing life force. And it allows for life force purification process through the nervous system. So that's actually what we're doing. When we regulate these lower three chakras, we are literally, remember we talked about when you regulate this, you activate the higher levels. Well, this is what that's about. If these first three chakras are in chaos and out of balance constantly, our emotions of fear, our relationships, and the way that we feel empowered in this world are impacted. And the integration of those three parts of ourselves are absolutely key to the balance of the whole self. We won't be able to get up here if we don't handle and balance these ones. And I've showed you a couple different ways to balance these three chakras. We do it through etheric work and also emotional, which is the deepest deprogramming work that we do. Okay, so it begins to relieve the blockages that allow life force to move through the body. Now, why does life force block these parts of the body? Now, this goes into a little bit deeper. We talked about how emotions get stuck in the body. let me get to that. Hold on a second. When we have negative emotions, right? Thought forms in some part of the body that we don't process correctly. Let's take an example here. Let's take this example of 29. So let's look for 29. The thought form is women don't support you if it's on the left, and men don't support you if it's on the right. Okay, so remember, right side of the body is the masculine, left side of the body is the feminine. So in some of these cases of information gets crossed, and this is really interesting, because in my healing work, when I see these blockages in the body and I can tune into them in a DNA reprogramming or hypnotherapy, immediately the information that shows up here in the part of the body is relevant to this information that you see here. And what happens in the physical body when we have that? It actually affects, okay, so here's 29. The energy that comes up from the nervous system, let's say you have a pain here in your shin, in your calf, and your program, because it's on the right side, is that men don't support me, right? And this can be a man or a woman. It could be father doesn't support. So the pain that is stagnant here is being brought up the nervous system into the body, but it doesn't go up the right side. It goes up the left side of the body. Okay, it goes up to the left side of the body, and it affects the left side of the brain here. And remember, the hemispheres of the brain dictate different aspects of our psyche, whether it's the creative or the practical analytical mind. Right. So this is really important, because when sometimes people get very confused about feminine and masculine healing. How do we heal feminine and masculine? Well, let's say here we have masculine issue, and let's take a look at how these work. Okay, so let's look at feminine and masculine. Feminine energy is the balanced feminine is receptive, passive, contractive, intuitive, inward, and the masculine is projective, active, giving, expansive, outward. What happens when we have a wounded masculine is that we portray emotions and perceptions that are confrontational, criticism, abuse, avoidance, unsupportive, unstoppable, controlling, aggression, abuse of power, and perpetrator. Okay, so these are the elements, and this is for both men and for women, that will play out these roles when they have a wounded masculine aspect. Okay, and it directly affects the feminine, because then they are either attracting victims, powerless people, weakness, people that manipulate, people that withhold truth, neediness, codependency, oversensitivity, over-emotional. So whatever we embody on either one of these sides, we attract the exact opposite, because they're complementary. The root program is the same for both. Okay. And in the physical body, how that shows up is that it shows up as a physical ailment in the body, and it directly affects, those specific parts of the bodies as thought forms that are blocking life force and how it moves, because the life force here is the vibrational frequency of men don't support you. That's the vibrational frequency. And that's the blockage that it's manifested in the body, creating a block. So in other words, high vibrational frequency cannot reach this lower part of the body. And remember that your entire body is an integrated system. It's a holistic system that requires the entire system to function in order to operate at its highest function. Now, the nervous system is important because we talked about the nervous system being interconnected with the chakras, right? So all of this information that runs up the spine is what is encoding our base code of DNA information. Base code of DNA. What is DNA? It's comprised of our ancestral lineage information and everything that we have become or potential of becoming. All of that is available to us. Through DNA is holographically the access into fractal aspects of ourselves, which exist simultaneously. So this is how some programs that we have in the body could sometimes create we can store illness from many past lives in the body. Okay, so sometimes in hypnotherapy, we access a past life in which we've had a traumatic experience, and they think it's not connecting with anything in this life, or they don't understand why they have a trauma in this life. But actually, the core belief system is the same in all the lives that they've had that same issue. That's something. So, anybody that says, I don't have something in this lifetime, I think it's from another lifetime, that's never true. Never, ever. It is always rooted in the physical body in the now. And many times people are not able to address the emotions in this lifetime because they are so strong. You know, they are so overpowering. Sometimes people um, uh, don't have the memory accessible to them because of the level of trauma that it took. And then they can't access those memories just superficially. They would have to go into the subconscious mind, either through hypnotherapy. And sometimes because the brain is so intelligent, it will create imagery and access simultaneous lifetimes that you're experiencing the same thing in order to create the same healing opportunity that you need for what's happening now. And so in the hypnotherapy, it would expand the healing for you. You would access that block that you have and you would release it by going to a simultaneous timeline in which you are still holding in your body, but you just don't consciously have access to it. So it's very, very powerful that when we begin to move these blockages out of the multidimensional body, that we begin to access these runways of energy. And growing the gray matter is what allows the physical body to produce this 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 oil, or this seed of life force, that allows and produces the chemical runways of energy in the pineal gland. And that is essentially where we begin to really get into that, to the transmutation process. So let's talk a little bit about what is this liquid that's created. Okay, this is taken from a book. I will put the name of the book for you to see, and you guys can access this information later. When the ointment is crucified, the crucify means to increase in the power of 1,000-fold, not to kill. It remains 2 days and a half. So what does that mean? So what is the oil? The oil is the sexual energy, sexual life force, that prana, that Kundalini energy, which means life force from the lower sexual organs. And this is essentially held within the body. And the moon's period in a sign, okay, the tomb, which represents the cerebellum, that's right, the chrism, and on the third day ascends to the pineal gland that connects to the cerebellum with the optic thalamus, the central eye in the throne of God, that is the chamber overtopped by the hollowed. Okay. So caused by the curve of the cerebellum, which represents the most high of the body, the highest part, the cerebellum up here, which is the temple of the living God, the living vital substance, which is a precipitation of the breath of life. Okay. Breathed into man. We're going to talk about what breathe into man some other time, because this goes into a whole element of interdimensional contact, actually, that we'll talk about this. But therefore, the holy whole ghost, that's the whole self, or breath of life force, that's life force. So the oil is created in the gray matter of the brain, and it flows down the spine to become the sexual fluid. Your job is to turn 10% back to the head. That is the prodigal son returning back home. It's all highly mystical. That's the right direction, right? So these are writings taken from ancient texts. Some of the ancient literature, Christic literature, talks a lot about this, and so does a lot of Hermetic literature and ancient Taoist literature. All of these ancient mystery schools that talked about how to utilize this life force. And this is a wonderful way to have an idea of how it was used as a metaphor in the Bible, or in books, in the occult books of the Bible, really. That were not understood, or perhaps were understood, but were essentially not utilized and openly shared with the world, because this is the power of mankind. The only people that were privy to this information were the churches, which took those informations and burned a lot of those books and got rid of a lot of those things. You think about the Library of Alexandria, who had a lot of these ancient mystical books about the body that were written by seers and by people that could see the body and that have cultivated their vision for many lifetimes. And the lifetime in these elements of timelines were obviously longer. But the whole point of that is that this life force transmutation is actually the key for the human. It is one way for them to reach this higher state. Now, when I reach these states, I reach them organically through meditation and through the purification of the emotional body. That's how I reached them. And when I reached it, I didn't even know what Kundalini was at that time. But the activation of intuition was incredibly powerful. Okay. So let's talk about this raw life force in this other context. The seed of Eve can bruise the head of the serpent, but it can be lifted up the tree of knowledge from Libra to Aries under the control of the mind in meditation. This is the same as the spinal axis from the Scorpio to the Taurus. And the Scorpio is at the base of the spine and the Taurus is at the head. The seeds of Eve are lunar and can gestate at every lunar cycle of 28 days. We talked about how astrological signs play a role in how this information is accessed through the body, through different stages. So, I mean, it really turns life into this opportunity. And you naturally tune into these cycles when you are in tune with yourself. These concepts that are being written here are as a result of people that have cultivated time in meditation, accessing this information, and we're sensitive and observing enough to notice how these cycles are showing up in the body. And when I went through this as well, this is how it also occurred. Everything is through these cyclical cycles, spirals of timelines that we are moving through, archetypes, self-organized systems of vibrational frequency. So we have to be very in tune with the body, and we can only be in tune when we are in tune with nature. We align ourselves with nature in order to be in tune. And so it's very important to connect to the body in meditation. There is no other way. You have to sit down and meditate. That's the thing. You have to dominate your mind and connect with your body and listen, because these are essentially the key to rising that life force. In order to rise the Kundalini, you have to overcome the 5 senses. Okay. This is what we're talking about. You have to have the oil in your lamp, that is the chrism, and you must not have wasted it through sex. You must reach the state of no thought, that is the virgin consciousness, the stain of no thought. So, the interesting thing about this, and what you'll notice as you do your own work, you will notice the impact of sex on your spiritual work. It is profound, especially when you take time to go within for a long time. Your body will not, when you're in the process of clearing and healing, oftentimes you won't desire sex because your body naturally automatically knows that the regeneration of that life force in your meditation will cultivate higher vision. And sometimes when you reach these higher states and you do have sex, you immediately feel the fall. You fall in consciousness, you fall in layer of your visions change, your access to information changes. And this isn't something that many people want to talk about, but it's so important, because people that are having dark nights of the soul, sometimes they don't understand what's happening to them, but they unite themselves with someone that is a lower frequency, And if they don't know how to manage their energy, or they're just learning, they take on a lot of stuff, or it just creates an imbalance in that exchange. So it's really important to just know this and utilize it for yourself, how it best serves you in your journey. Okay. So to get to the core of this information, the way that information travels through the body, through the nervous system, is a key to understand how to heal and release and begin to clear and purify and no longer become a slave to the five senses. Why? Because the five senses are the ones that are affecting and are receiving patterns of information. Our DNA is encoded with certain patterns of behavior, and whatever we're outputting is the vibrational frequency that we're receiving. So we need to understand and cut those patterns and cycles that we're doing that are counter creative towards ourselves. Okay. So this is something that we need to address in the physical body. And the more that we activate the higher levels of our vibrational frequency, we can begin to access higher faculties. So, yeah, let's go over to, let me see if I'm missing anything else important that I want to touch on today. Well, I guess I will cover this, but we'll go into this a little bit more later. But every single one of the spinal vertebrae, as we talked about when we're doing that transmutation process, is holding key information and is interconnected again, as in all the systems in the body are spirals. They're self-similar fractals. The foot has the entire map of the body, all the organs, all the areas of life force, the hand, the palms of the hands, the ears. You see, the entire body is fractals within fractals of the whole. Okay. So when we understand how to utilize those for healing, we can have many different ways to unclog stagnant programs. Okay. So in the spine, this is a great little chart here that focuses on how each one of these areas connects with the organs and these emotional thought forms. They interconnect with the nervous systems of the body. And if you overlap this on top of the other image of the emotions that are trapped in the body, they are perfect to help you understand when you have an emotion for a long time, why that organ or that part of your body has been affected in the way it has. This is laid out for us. And we can look at these charts, but my invitation to you is that you practice in your meditation so that you can learn how to do this on your own. Okay. All this information that I'm sharing with you can be accessed just by meditation. You don't need to have those charts. And I highly, highly invite you to do it organically on your own. Okay. All right, my love. So let's get into our meditation. That was just a really quick overview of that. And we're going to go into more of that in a minute. In the next couple of days. So let's go to the chat. Laonika Yoli, Darina Yardova, so wonderful to see you. Angie. Geraldine, what about the white matter of the brain? Okay, what is the question, Angie? Did I answer your question? Nikki says, wow. Kevin Parkinson, Geraldine, the section on your website called Channeled Messes had excuse me, a video of you under hypnosis. Is it a channeling that you are doing, or is it other multidimensional levels of yourself that are speaking? Well, I mean, I guess those can be the same, right? This is me. This is me channeling the information. Oh, I see what you're asking. No, this is just me. And I want to be very clear that on my personal journey, I had many invitations from many consciousness of many kind of beings that wanted to channel through. But as I mentioned before, anytime that I picked up on that, there's an element of exchange that I wasn't very keen on. And also, it always comes at a cost, channeled information. So they might not give you 100% pure information. So yes, and also the information I'm sharing in a lot of these hypnotherapies are actually very incomplete, because the amount of information that I saw is much more than what I was speaking. I couldn't even speak half of what I was seeing. So it comes off very kind of cut and not complete as it should be. So also, what is your take on channeling in general? Okay, well, there's that answer. I think that we as vessels of infinite potential have to train ourselves to channel, every single one of us, because that is the exercising of the higher faculties connecting to the realm of infinite knowledge. And we have to. This is how we can find health. This is how we can strengthen our intuition. And this is a product of doing all this work, but you can access that through emotional work as well, right? So it is essential that we do that. My invitation and my advice is that you make sure that when you are channeling, that you are very familiar with who you're channeling, and that you practice a very good level of energetic hygiene and discernment in order to make sure you understand what's being exchanged. I work with a lot of clients that have channeled things that seemingly were from the light. But after a couple very wonderful messages later on, the messages that are being received are not really that high vibration. They're inversions of truth, inversions of nature, and they can really impact a person's life if they don't know how to discern, or if they make it public. You can interfere with other people's evolution, in especially your own. Right. So it's important to understand the ego and your relationship with that information. Sometimes people are like, oh, I'm a channeler, and they make themselves very public without understanding how they are affecting free will. There's a responsibility in how you share information. And I think it's important to be very conscious about that. Thanks. Love you, Geraldine. Love your work. Love you too, K Dub. Thank you for being here. Mila Rose, my daughter just got her moon at age 10 years old. I feel like children in general are going through puberty earlier. Do you have any ideas on how to start work with my daughter? Yes, this is a huge passion of mine, because we need to train our kids to understand how to work with life force. I mean, if I was raised knowing this information, I think that, we would all be at a very different place right now. But even then, life as a general raw experience is beautiful as it is. But meditation is an important part that should be implemented in child upbringing, to learn mindfulness, to learn how to regulate the nervous system, and to begin learning intuition, which will help discernment. This is the key. So whether we play intuitive games with them, or assist them, or have them use their intuition to give us answers, or to do something, to choose things that they're going to be doing, train that intuition constantly, just like we had our telepathic class. Train like that. The kids, they love these kinds of games, but if it's exercising a part of them, it's even better, because they will be able to trust themselves. That's really the number one key, is to teach a child to trust themselves. That will help and create a solid foundation for when they start going through puberty, because when they start going through puberty, something really interesting happens, that they start having all these hormones, and hormones are played on chemically, and emotions are induced. This is why children are targeted by media, entertainment industry with music. Hip hop and a lot of pop music is very bass heavy, and the hertz in which they are being played are very disruptive and distorting for your DNA. They immediately access the vibrational frequency of the sexual and root organs in the first and second chakra, and manipulate the child with that survival through the patterns of vibrational frequency, and of course through the lyrics. Let's not even talk about that. Just the beat itself at the hertz that it's playing at, and also in the sexual organs, enticing sexuality, arousal, to children at such a young age. And this can be very confusing for them, because they don't know why they're feeling what they're feeling. So this is something that has to be carefully, I mean, you can only protect them to a certain extent, and then you can't. So this is why teaching them to trust themselves and their body, to connect with their body, connect with the emotions is essential to be able to listen to, does that feel right? When I was a child, I forced myself to listen to hip hop until I started to like it. I played violin for many years, and I grew up with classical music and also some light pop music. But in order to fit in, you have this idea that you need to listen to certain things. And in my early healing journey, I remember that the pressure that the child feels subconsciously as a result of their, social acceptance. So if you learn self trust at a very early age, it helps you with discernment. It helps you have a strong home base and foundation. And so, any way that we can do that, I will do a whole series on children um, this coming year. Okay. How long would you suggest a meditation with her, and would you keep it simple? What do you do if she's resistant to meditating or breathing practices? Yeah. So, there are ways to go about that. Definitely don't push anything, because the more you push, they want to kind of run away or not, engage. So there are intelligent ways to kind of implement this way of thinking in your conversation, mindfulness thinking. And the best way for the parent to affect and teach the child is by becoming an example, because children are multidimensionally aware. They're super intuitive, and they pick up on subconscious hits clearly, and they will act on those subconscious hits more than you are even aware. So sometimes parents have a lot of anxiety, and they put a smile on the face and they think everything is okay, but the child feels the anxiety, and that's why the child sometimes will act up or do crazy things to get attention or to find peace somehow. um, we need to be aware of that. So as a parent, become an example. Your communications will be different. Your intuitive responses to them will be different. It's a different way of being. Okay. Is there anything else beside meditation that can bring your body into a homeostasis, like breath work? Yes, you can, but breath work does not address the emotional patterns. The emotions are absolutely key. You cannot get away from the emotional work. So you have to sit down and do the emotional work in order to, in meditation, deprogram the programs that got you to where we are today, because that's what it's all about. That's the entire life. Your life is a product of programs that are inherited, right? For experience, through experience. So if you want to change your life, if you want to be healthier, if you want to be happier, these are the key things that will begin to change your subconscious mind, because that's what creates. I don't remember anything from my experience besides a mantis floating over my bed and feeling deep relaxation and peace. I just went back to sleep when it went away. Okay. Blanca says, "Hi, Geraldine. Thank you so much. Could you please share your take on the collapse of collapsing at the heart or of the heart? Would like to know your view on it." Collapsing of the heart. Can you please elaborate on that, Blanca? Please tell me a little bit more. Jaden 13 is the colostrum oil. Yes, the chrism. Yes. I just sent you an email. Oh, you did, Lee. Oh, that's so interesting. I'll check that out. I just learned about a few days ago. I wonder if this is where Catholicism stole the idea of anointment for the forehead. Yes, yes, and many other symbolisms, many, which I'm not going to go into. There's many people that talk about that, but you can definitely look that up. Awesome. Santos Bonacci. Oh, I'm not sure I know who that is. I heard another video on this earlier. Oh, look, everybody is in this stuff. That's so great. Anders says sexual energy, is that something that also increases in vibration to include more than just physical sex? Yes, and I will talk a little bit about that as we go through this challenge. But yes, it is, as a short answer. Yes, Geraldine, this is often challenging to be with a partner when going through this. I know, I completely understand that. And I guess what we have to be aware of and just open to is that our concepts of marriage and union and partnership have to kind of be a little bit more. This naturally happens as you come into these higher states, but sometimes things need to readjust in order to open space for healing, both sides. So just remember that unconditional love means free will on both ends, and just hold space to your own healing. Okay. Cedric says, I'm appreciative of the energy and effort you put into this presentation. Thank you so much, Cedric. Is it okay to learn Reiki? Yes, it's great to learn Reiki, but I was having a conversation about this earlier. Reiki isn't as complete in its education when it comes to energetic hygiene, and I see that that affects a lot of people. So I always advise to try to get a little bit of a deeper pranic healing, learning and training, and I highly suggest Master Choa Kok Sui. I have his book right there. But I was certified with him when I went to do pranic healing, and I found his work to be very accurate and very intuitive. How can we find you on Wix Spaces app? As use the same login that you used to go into my website, and you will find my website there. Yes, I do play intuitive games. Okay. Thank you guys. We have a lot of questions, but you know what? We're going to get into the meditation and we'll be back in just a moment. Okay. All right. So let's go ahead and inhale deeply and exhale. With every breath you take, as you allow yourself to get deeper and deeper into a state of relaxation, calm, breathing. With every breath you take, allowing the ebb and flow of life force entering into the body and leaving the body. Bringing the focus down to the base of the spine, going down to the root chakra. Going to gently shrink that chakra down to the size of a dime. Going up to the sacral chakra. Shrinking it down to the size of a dime. Going up to the solar plexus. Shrinking it down to the size of a dime. Going up into the heart. Expanding that heart chakra front and back. Opening the center of coherence, love. Going up into the throat. Expanding that chakra. Going up into the third eye. Opening the center of intuition. Going up into the seventh and the eighth. Activating the eighth, filling it with your creative color. Sending it down into the seventh. Illuminate the seventh. Into the areas of career, love, abundance, relationships, health, balance, harmony, creativity, creation, sexual energy, money, exchanges, and purpose. Fill it in. And as you activate, breathing deeply. Okay. We're going to visualize bringing green life force down from the center of the earth up into the body, creating a vortex of energy. Go ahead and visualize that green life force spinning around your body. Breathing deeply, absorbing that green life force into the field as it rotates around the body. Bringing cosmic energy down through the crown of the head, combining with this green earth energy. Okay, going to take 10% of that back down to the center of the earth. Go ahead and eliminate all the stress, anxiety, any strong emotions, helping the body come back into a neutral state. Breathing. You're going to take 80% of that combination, send it up your spine and from the crown of the head, coating the outside of your field. Go ahead and call back your life force from people, places, and things that are no longer in alignment with you. Take that green and gold life force, take it back into the body now. Final 10%. Absorb it into the pores, the flesh, the muscles, the bones, down to the cellular level. Nourishing the body, healing the body, observing. And just feel that life force moving through the 3 layers of the body. As you feel the life force spinning through the toroidal field of the body, up through the center, out through the crown, going through a purification process, and then clean energy being brought into the body from the earth and from source. Anchoring that source energy into earth as you take your attention down to the center core of the planet, sending that life force to the center core of the earth, healing the earth and all living organisms here on earth, bringing light to anyone in suffering and in darkness, bringing light to family members, loved ones, awareness. The longer you stay in a state of neutral observation, non-judgmental neutral observation, the more gray matter you grow. So for the next few minutes, we're going to be in absolute stillness and absolute silence, bringing the body into a state of absolute non-judgmental observation. So go ahead and bring yourself into that state. Explore that stillness. Explore any kind of noises that you hear around you. Non-judgmental observation. And just observe your muscles, especially in the abdomen, anytime that they want to contract, anytime they want to react. You're going to inhale deeply, neutralizing. And the more still you sit, you'll notice becoming aware of more parts of your body that are really tense. So just allow yourself to gently adjust, letting go of any need to control yourself or anyone outside of you. You'll feel your attention going deeper and deeper into a state of observation. With every breath you take, breathing all the way down to the abdomen, expanding. Inhale and exhale. You're not looking to put your mind somewhere. You're not looking to have thoughts. You're not trying not to have thoughts. You're just being in a state of neutral observation. The body goes deeper into a state of natural attention, natural expression. So let your body adjust into that most natural state. Every minute coming back into neutral observation. And every time you become aware of something new, some new movement, some new tightness or tension in the body, just let yourself come back. Neutral observation. No judgment. Breathing. You might notice that the longer you sit, waves of the body start to come up. Waves of emotions, waves of reactions that by now your body would have taken anytime it wants to run away or move or shift. So you're just going to counter those physical reactions or thoughts that want to come in by immediately observing it with non-judgment. Breathing. And just notice in this moment, in this time that we've spent together, how many times you wanted to react or move. Just observe. Notice if any emotions start to intensify. Very good. So now that you're here, in this neutral, calm state, observe an emotion that keeps coming up. Located in the body, what part of the body is tensing up as you feel that emotion? And take your attention there to that body part. Try to quickly, without analyzing the event, get down to the root emotion. And as you access that emotion, observe that emotion in your body. What happens when you feel that emotion? Be present with it. How does it make you feel? And as you identify these emotions, select one of these emotions that is the strongest. Take yourself back to the very last time that you felt that emotion. If you see yourself in this event, begin to observe your reactions, other people's reactions. Just notice and observe your needs without judgment. What is it that you require in that moment? What do you most need in order to not feel that way? Non-judgmental observation. Very good. So as you see yourself here, notice how the body has adjusted. I want you to surround yourself and everything that you require at this moment. Go ahead and visualize bringing white life force into the body, into the pores, the flesh, the muscles, the bones, bringing the body into a state of neutrality. And we're going to come back to that neutral observation. I want you to notice the contrast between feeling emotions in the body and bringing yourself into a state of neutrality. Release any additional tensions or emotions. Breathing. Okay, you're going to go ahead and go to your root chakra now at the base of your spine. Go ahead and visualize opening that root chakra back into a balanced state. Go up into your sacral, open it back into a balanced state. Go up into your solar, opening it into a balanced state. You're going to go up into your heart, activating the heart. Going up to your throat, open up that throat. Breathing. And as you go up into your crown chakra now, into the eighth, into the seventh, I want you to pull from the root, the base of the spine, pulling up the pelvic floor as you inhale gently, bringing up that energy up the spine, up into the pineal gland. Beginning to put the tongue to the roof of the mouth, and just beginning to create a flow of life force through the body, pulling from the perineum up to the crown and back down to the front of the body. Breathing with every breath, inhaling. Gently holding the breath as you move up the body into the pineal gland. Breathing. As you begin to raise this high vibration in the body up to the highest point, just notice the shift in your consciousness, the shift in your energy. Allowing yourself to breathe. Very good. And as you begin to take that energy now up into the seventh, into the eighth, into the ninth, into the 10th, into the 11th, the 12th, the 13th. Above you is a powerful white light of source. Connect up into that white light of source. Go ahead and bring that white light down into your body, down to the center core of your body, down to the perineum, down into the center of the earth. And as you anchor that life force down into the center of the earth, go ahead and bring yourself back into the room and open your eyes. And with your eyes open, continue to see your grounding cord, continue to see your field, continue to see your chakras and your connection all the way up to source. You guys did an amazing job. I want to thank you so much for joining me today. And I really hope that today's session helped out. If you guys have any additional questions, put them in the chat. And I do see some questions from Anders. Breaking down the subconscious programs to build new programs. That sounds familiar to the first blackening stage in alchemy, which is about breaking down and dissolving. Yes, that's right, Anders. Blanca says, you mentioned right at the beginning about emotions collapsing at the heart to result in coherence. Yes, and actually, if you want to know more about that, I talked about it, I think 2 or 3 days ago in our video. But the person that really explains that just beautifully, but in an advanced physics manner, if you're interested in that, is Dan Winter. He worked with the Heart Math Institute. So please do check him out. He's a dear friend of mine. I love his work. It's just incredible. And it is complementary to everything that we're talking about. So definitely check him out, and his very complex, but also can be digestible simply, physics explanation on collapsing waves in order to create this function. Okay, great. I'll look them up. I started doing Reiki on my own. What about light language? I make symbols with hand, but don't speak at this moment. So light language is also a vibrational frequency language. It's important to develop a good vision when you're utilizing light language so that you know what you're doing. Oftentimes, a well-developed light language is really like creating structures of geometric symbols in order to readjust the body. But I do think that we need to understand how to use that properly. You can deprogram DNA with vibrational frequency, but you need to have very clear intention on what's being created with the light language and what's being communicated, especially if we're doing healing. So I oftentimes advise that people, practice understanding. There's many levels of light language. I also speak light language. At first, you're going to be able to just hear it, but not many people understand what they say. But that is something that can be developed. Understand and see what you're saying, because it is holographic and you are creating geometric structures. So take a look at, tune in intuitively what's being created, what's being said, so that you understand what you're doing, because it's important to have understanding in some of this clearing, at least some level of understanding. Just joining live now from Singapore. G, having trouble signing up to your website due to CAPTCHA error and me not using FBID. I'll figure it out. Also gave Portal to Ascension and thinking it was yours. Oh, thank you, SF. I really appreciate that. I'm sure Portal to Ascension will love that. Neil is a dear friend of mine, so I'm so happy to support him. FBID, you don't really need FBID. You can just use your email. So if you want to create an account using your email, that might be easier than FB. And you can access either the website, but if you download the Spaces Wix app, you can access the previous slides from other days. Megan says, good morning, good morning. Joy, welcome. Thank you so much. You are. Love you. Amazing information. Thank you, Angie. Name of the pranic healing coach again, Master Choa Kok Sui. I'll just show you. This is one of my favorite books. And if you guys want to just, I don't know if you can see it. Hold on, there's a lag time. Yeah, I really love this book because he's very thorough with the information. I found to be one of the most accurate schools of pranic healing, and very much in alignment with my own intuitive understanding of the field. So I highly suggest him. If you're looking to be a pranic healer, energy healer of any kind, understand the basics because he does understand them. Okay. Question: do you refer to our crown chakra as the seventh? The crown system is a combination of two chakras, which is the seventh and the eighth. They don't work alone. It's like the feminine and masculine. Okay. So the eighth is the cultivation of life force of the upper dantian, and it feeds into the seventh, which works like a refraction mechanism that takes that life force into all aspects of the physical self. If you were to see the body from above, you look like a star almost, or like a pie chart. It's divided by different sections in which the chakra system self-organizes through the toroidal field of the body. Okay, so all of those areas are runways. The toroidal field is made out of runways of life force that look like spiral DNA strands that basically create the fields of the body. So as you see that from above, you're activating the seventh in order to embed into the physical vessel, essentially. Good morning, Geraldine. Greetings. Oh, Marilena. Thank you so much, Megan. I'm glad you guys are saying hi. Dan Winter is amazing. I find it a bit tricky to understand because it's so advanced. Yes, that's true. It's a little bit advanced, but when you overlap it with a lot of things I talk about, sometimes it can be very easy. It gives you a little thorough understanding. Is this your teacher, Grandmaster? I became certified with him, but I learned how to see the multidimensional body before I went to see his work. And actually, it's not Master Choa Koksui, but his apprentice is the one that I took certification from. And I'm sorry, I can't remember. Oh, Master Stephen Ko. Yeah, so he's the one that I learned from. And I will say that in the beginning, there were some things that I did feel were off, just because looking at the multidimensional body, but his understanding is one of the most complete that I found from the work that I've seen. So I highly suggest him. Anoop, hello, Geraldine. Thank you for your excellent job for the humanity. Thank you. My question is, how do we know our star family and the purpose of life? And what's your thought about ideal diet should we follow? Okay, so question about our star family and the purpose of life. So star family lineages, we have many lineages that we are working through. You can access that information by identifying what dimension you most connect with in this lifetime. Many of us are very deeply interconnected with many of the upper dimensions. And I think I talked about this yesterday with you guys or in a session earlier today. But as you access these higher dimensional planes, you can access the gifts that are provided for you through those higher dimensions. So many people are coming from anywhere from the 9th to the 55th dimensional plane. They incarnate on this earth at this time with a lot of access to these lineages, to these dimensions, which allows them to have different understanding of things, healing abilities, information. So I would really, in meditation, as you deprogram your earth programs first, you will organically uncover through your ancestral lineage what you're most working with collectively. Okay. The purpose of life really is, it really is about, this is an opportunity for you, and it's not the whole rule. You define your purpose of life, essentially, but the purpose, the higher purpose of the organism incarnating in the three-dimensional plane is the transmutation process of taking the lower into the higher. We were designed for that, we are made for that, and the environment contrasts that in balance. So everything in your life is designed to trigger and to create scenarios which you can transcend. So that whole transcension process that is occurring, I'm not sure if that's a word, but transcending, that whole process of transcending is actually part of this beautiful transmutation instrument that you have as a physical body. So you will understand your purpose by understanding your triggers and learning the opposite of those triggers. Once you learn the opposite of those triggers, now you're beginning to understand your purpose, because they will shed light on your inner, deeper knowledge and wisdom that you have access to, your unique star lineages, which allow you to understand interdimensional levels of yourself and others. And in that, activating higher faculty abilities that are more activated in some of these dimensional planes. So you'll be able to access some of that information and utilize it for your healing or whatever work you're doing in your everyday life. So it enhances. But when we're in that state, we're operating at our most high, healthy vitality state. That's the key. Natural balance, balance of nature, vitality, and co-creation. That's really the purpose of mankind. So, Geraldine, I was doing one of your meditations late afternoon yesterday, and went in head above, a dove flew, a live one, into my space and circled above me a few and flew out again. Oh, a dove. Wow, that's beautiful, Megan. That's a lot of symbolism there behind that dove. So I would look into that symbolism as a spirit animal. Oftentimes, these birds have a lot of really beautiful symbolism, or any animal, when you're doing this kind of work. Okay. Do you have any tips for healing pets and animals when we meditate around them? Do they feel it? Absolutely. Every single time I used to have a cat, I would meditate. She would come to me when I would be in groups in private homes teaching meditation. All the animals would come to us in the room. And actually, anytime that you activate your seventh and eighth chakra, you're aligning with the natural laws and circadian rhythms of the earth. So you will naturally be in alignment with nature. You're in alpha state, in state of natural alignment. So you will definitely begin to access that. Okay. How do we heal with them? God, I should do a whole video on that, because I think I talked before about the karmic connections between animals, and how when we create kind of a codependent extension of ourselves subconsciously within an animal. And sometimes the animal can take the illness from the owner. Okay, so there's a very deep connection between animals. Animals almost serve as an extension of ourselves and are there to teach us unconditional love, or it's such a gift. It's a powerful gift to have an animal that chooses to connect with you, because um, they are allowing you to come into that 0 point when you're with them. So, but we're so unconscious that we take and take and take from the animal, but we don't give back. And how we give back is by providing unconditional love in return, not just in the emotional state, but as a whole, by handling ourselves, by doing our shadow work, so that the animal doesn't have to take on anything or help regulate us, because a lot of times they are used as emotional regulating um, gifts. So yeah, just be really mindful of shadow work so that you can work compassionately with your pet. Okay. Good night, everyone. 2 a.m. in New Jersey. Love you, Mila. I just connected, and the last question you answered was all I needed to hear before I went to bed. Thank you. Thank you, Jim Mac. Love you, Mauricio, so much. Thank you so much. Samantha says, sometimes I get electric shock when I'm touching something. It started again in December. What's happening? Wow, looks like you're really transducing things. Samantha, that's amazing. Keep grounding. Thank you, Geraldine, for your amazing knowledge, wisdom, and sharing. So appreciate. I love you guys. Thank you, Jaden13. Love you so much. I hope you guys have an amazing day. I'll see you tomorrow. Bye. Love you.